Hi, this is Chris in the Stogie Palace. Today I'm going to try something new. This is called a La Flor Dominicana, 1994. Let's see, can you see that right there? This is a medium strength San Andreas wrapper, which I like. San Andreas wrappers are one of my favorites. It's a Toro, so it's 6.5 by 52, and it's made in the Dominican Republic. I heard about this one on the Cigar Authority, which you can find at thecigarauthority.com. They have blogs, and they have podcasts. They have a video show once a week. It's worth checking out. So once again, lately I've been using this V cutter, and I'm going to stick with that because the thing I like about it is that you can only push this in so far, the cigar that is, and then it'll make the cut, and you won't cut it too deep. So it's worked really well for me for the last few cigars. So I'm going to try it again. But in case that doesn't work, I have the V cutter ready to go. So pretty good one too. So I did read a little bit about this, but I've tried to forget about what I read about as far as the flavors. Nice sweet. Since I don't usually smoke Toros, but this is what I got as a Christmas present. It's a really nice flavor. So I'll get this thing lit up, and while I do, tell you a little bit how I got this thing. I have a Google Drive spreadsheet of all my cigars. Sort them by either by age, by how many I have of each, by price. And one area I had on there was a wish list. Well, I was quite surprised to find out that my family found that wish list. Pleasantly surprised to find that they found that wish list, because my son had to go out of town for Christmas, our first time not having Christmas with him since, forever. And somehow he was made aware of that wish list. One of them on that wish list was this. La Flor Dominicana, 1994. Reason why I had this on my wish list is because on the Cigar Authority they did a blind taste test with quite a few cigars in there you probably have heard of, including the Tatuaje Tattoo, which is one of the ones I want to try next. This is great right off the bat, I gotta say. So anyway, my son got a hold of that wish list, and he got me 4 or 5 of the cigars that were on that wish list, including this one, which I'm really glad I got this one. Read a lot of good things about it. I didn't realize until today, just now, that it was San Andreas wrapper, which is definitely growing on me as one of my favorites. Let me tell you a little bit more about this cigar while we're getting through the first part of it here. And it's not a lot of information on it. I didn't find it at Cigars International. My son got it at a cigar shop in California, so didn't really need any aging, just needed rest. It's been resting for a couple weeks. But on Thompson Cigar, they had a description of their Lito and Inés Gomez purposely and brilliantly set aside the most exceptional fillers and binders from their La Canela farm in the Dominican Republic to create La Flor LFD's 20th anniversary Rumba commemorative cigar. I assume this is the same one. Surrounding the complex and powerful blend is a sweet and savory Mexican San Andreas wrapper. Like La Flor Dominicana's other premiums, the 1994 is a full-bodied cigar that is totally off the hook, made with love, pride, and decades of patience, well worth the wait. And like I said, I first heard about it at the Cigar Authority. So toros usually aren't my style, just because of how long it takes to get through them. And this could take a while. My first impressions, I like the flavor a lot. It's putting off a decent amount of smoke off the foot here, but the draw is a little snugger than I'd want it to be. The cut, I think, is deep enough. So some little resistance, but not too bad. Still getting a fair amount of smoke, even with that. As far as the appearance of it, I didn't see any flaws with it, but it may not appear that way to you, but it's pretty dark where I'm sitting right now, because I got this lighter, this light inside this garage. It's on a timer, and it goes on and off, and I just turned it off and have a light back behind the camera. So it's a little hard to see it. I'd have to get up and take a look at it in the light, but so far, I like it. Good impression so far, and I'm gonna let it go a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about this and that, because my reviews aren't the most technical. They're technical in the sense I'll tell you how well a cigar burns, the draw, the aroma. I'm just not really good at describing the flavors. I could read you some of the descriptions that Barry over at Cigar Authority gave you, but I usually try to read those after I smoke a cigar, so I can say that was it, or because I don't want it to taint my opinion, or I don't know. I guess it's okay to do that, but I'm trying to really develop my own palate. Now I will say something I have different this time. It's what I'm drinking with it, and I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm sure these go great with coffee. I know they do because other people say they do. But I like hot chocolate, so that's what I have. And I'm going to show you this mug. It's one of a kind. I don't believe you will find this anywhere. Inside this mug is some hot chocolate and a little bit of Irish cream, St. Brendan's. They have it at Costco for about half the price of Bailey's, and I think it tastes better. Some of my friends that are big time into Irish whiskey and Irish cream agree. So take a look at that. It says Request Rifle, the Aspen Eagle Alternate. I think it says alternate or alternative. And you're probably wondering, what the heck is that? That's the Garfield County Regional Airport rifle. I'm an air traffic controller. That's the airspace I work. So if any of you pilots are out there that fly around the mountains of Colorado, you probably talked to me. That they were having a contest about how many people, controllers, diverted airplanes from Aspen and Eagle over to Rifle. They're trying to pump up their business. And they wanted to sell themselves as a viable alternative to Aspen and Eagle. So I think I was the first one that had 8 divert. Now when I say divert, that doesn't mean I forced airplanes into going from those airports to this airport. It's because the weather was so bad at Aspen and Eagle that they had to divert, and they requested to divert. That's why it says Request Rifle. It's not the controller's request, it's the pilot's request, and they want the pilots to request that. And I had one heck of a butt-kicking day, and worked a whole bunch of airplanes over into Rifle, and all of a sudden, the supervisor walks up to me with this really nice velvet sack, open it up, that mug's in there. Just coincidentally, right around that same time, I was visiting out there. I was on vacation, and I happened to meet the airport manager at that airport, and I didn't have a heads up on this. Actually, it was after this, because I told him I won that mug, and he gave me some hats to spread out to the controllers as well that said the same thing. And so that was pretty cool. I got to see the operation, which it's nice to, from our vantage point, see what else is going out there, fly on airplanes or go to airports, stay in touch with what's happening out there. So I'll stop right here, mainly because the heater I have is cooking me. Even though it's 54 degrees outside here and the relative humidity is 41%. My concern with that is making sure, or hoping anyway, that the wrapper on the cigar doesn't crack from the change in humidity. It was 65% in the humidor, and so it's dropped 24% just by being outside. That's part of the reason why I've been doing V-cuts. So don't break the cap, so don't make it peel anywhere, crack. I've had pretty good luck with that so far. But I'm getting a little bit less of a draw on this one, but it's still acceptable. Just I have to work a little bit harder than normal. Then again, this is a longer cigar. I don't know if it has something to do with it. It's not that terribly tight of a pack. Maybe a little bit around the band. So I'll cut here, check back in a little bit. So far, I'm really enjoying the cigar. So here we are, still around the first third or so. But look at that, nice tight white ash. Although in the darkness here it might be gray. You know, it's hard for me to see. You can probably see it better than me. But one note I'll make about the construction of this, it's definitely softer pack from the foot to the midway point. And it's a tighter pack back here. I'm sure that has something to do with the tight draw that I'm talking about. We'll see what that does to the flavor. I cheated a little and looked at the Cigar Authority's review of this. I think they gave it a 93 as far as the flavors. And sure enough, you know, I read something there where he mentioned citrus. Yeah, is that what that is? And then I thought about it, I go, that is. It reminds me of maybe like a lemon or orange peel. So I'm always concerned, like I said, about reading reviews like that because I don't want it to taint what I am getting out of it. But since I have a still fairly uneducated palate when it comes to cigars, it's helpful. The burn, a little uneven right there. We'll see how that develops. Notice I have to work a little bit there to get the amount of smoke that I want to get out of it. Once I let it up, there's smoke coming out both ends. Very nice. Definitely one of the better cigars I've had in a while. There was a hint of a little bit of harshness there on the finish, and for you non-smokers or new ones at this, I join you in that club. But by finish, from what I read and seen of other videos, is you take the, you don't inhale, you take a drag off of the cigar, you let it out through your nose if you can, every once in a while to pick up more flavors. And then what lingers, aftertaste would be another good word from finish from what I can gather. How long does it last? What do you pick up on it? For me, a lot of times I'll pick up stuff on the back of my tongue. That's usually where the bitterness kind of hits me. Not on the tip, which I've heard people say that they get it on the tip of their tongue, and it makes sense because that's usually where you pick up the salty things. But for me, on cigars, I pick it up more in the back, in the roof of my mouth, the back of my tongue. Waiting to see how long this ash holds on. If it falls off, it falls off, but hopefully not on my lap. That's a fair enough uneven burn to mark it down for construction. And if you saw any of my other videos, which if you do, you probably see I repeat myself on some of them only because I don't know who's seen them. I don't know how many I'm going to release of these, and I want them to be sort of all-inclusive in each one. Although I've already told you things about myself that I didn't on any others, but like I'm an air traffic controller. 29, 30 years, going on 30 years. You're saying, Chris, 30 years, but you look so young. When you blow it out your nose like that, that's called a retrohale. And I blew it out a little too quickly. Burned just a little, only because the smoke might have been a little on the warm side. But can't be too warm because that's one heck of an ash. So let's talk about the cherry. And you experienced smokers, I'm not telling you something you don't already know. The cherry is that little red spot where the burn line is. And as far as this one goes, and from what I've heard, you want the burn line, which is the black area where it's burning, to be as thin as you can, as thin as possible. That tells you that you have a good quality cigar and wrapper. The burn line on this one is uneven and a little, it's not too thick. I mean, it's a little thick there where it's uneven, but it's trying to catch up, which is a good thing. That's a long ash holding down. Now, I will say something to you non-cigar smokers, as you probably are getting a chuckle about that. Probably thinking about old ladies smoking cigarettes and how tacky they look when they have long ashes. In a cigar, that's a good thing, though. That's a sign of really good tight construction. Not overly tight in this case. It was a little loose, like I said, in that first third, which I'm moving into the second third now. The red area at the bottom, like I said, that's the cherry. You want to keep that cool. You want the smoke to be cool. You don't inhale this. I can't imagine how painful it would be to inhale this. This is 100% tobacco. It's not like a cigarette where you have crunched up, probably crap tobacco and chemicals and who knows what else. This is all tobacco, nothing else. If you want to look on the internet and see how they make cigars, or see people cut open cigars and see what you end up with. It's just scrunched up, rolled up tobacco, nothing else. There are some infused ones out there and some flavored ones out there, but premium serious cigars don't do that. The flavors that you pick up, like the citrus I was talking about, or cocoa flavors, or coffee, or creamy kind of stuff, that is not added. That is not infused. That is the tobacco itself, the leaves, impart all those things themselves. So, for me, I obviously don't spend a whole lot of time on the flavors because I haven't developed my palate good enough to pick them out. But I do pay a lot of attention to the construction because that adds to the enjoyment of the cigar, or lack thereof. Now, I scored it by 4 things, and this comes right from Cigar Aficionado's rating system. Appearance, how it looks, and that includes the band. It's a nice band. There's better, there's worse, there's simpler. The burn slant aroma, which is one category, pretty self-explanatory, and I will ding it for burn right now. Aroma is great, love it, and aroma is a big thing for me. I really like the aroma. I can pick up more off of that, especially if it's a pleasant aroma. If it smells like cigarette ash, cigarette smoke, not good. That doesn't happen very often with these. Next category would be taste, which it's good. Other than that bitterness I sensed early on, I'm not getting that now at all. And then overall, what your overall feeling, I guess, of the cigar is, which is the most. That's 35 out of 100 points. So all of the cigars start off at 100 and work their way down from there. This one is around 97 right now, and I'm about to get into the second third. So I am going to, it's making me nervous. So I am going to break it off in the ashtray gently, not tapping it. That's what we have. And then now you're going to get a really good look at the cherry on this. Another good reason for me, and others have said this too, about leaving the ash on as long as you can is because when the smoke gets hotter, because there's not any ash to keep it cool, it tends to get a little harsher, possibly a little bitter. A lot of times after I tap it like that, and it came off in one nice solid chunk, I'll go a little slower on it so it'll burn a little bit, and so I have that little ash build up so I don't get all that harsh flavor. And I'll cut the cigar a little slack if it does get harsh in there, because it's kind of comes with the territory with the hotter smoke. That, I think, we're to the point where we need to have a touch-up. So by touch-up, that means getting out the lighter, and it's a little chilly in here, so my lighter may not work as well as normal. Working okay, and just gonna touch that up a little right there, just so it'll catch up. If you let it go too far, it's too uneven. They call that canoeing, because it kind of is like a canoe. That's hence the name, right? Most flavor from cigars come from the wrapper. The wrapper is the outside that you see. It's wrapped around a thing called a binder, and inside of that is filler. Now, when you say filler, you go, oh man, filler. You know, like filler on an album with crap music to fill in the spots around the hits, or filler in food, just to give it more volume, but it's not necessarily the best stuff. Filler on cigars give it the strength, from what I've heard. And for me, like I said, wrappers, I like the darker wrappers. I've tried Connecticut. I have some more Connecticut. That's a lighter shade wrapper. It's grown in the shade, but also the shade of the color of the wrapper is lighter. I haven't found myself liking those as much. Maduro, which is a darker, or this San Andreas, which is, I keep saying the San Andreas, but it's not. It's San Andreas without the A at the end, and it's a place down in Mexico that grows, well, tobacco for cigars, but also it's getting really popular for the wrapper. Most of the strength of a cigar comes from the filler on the inside. And most of the flavor, like I said, comes from the wrapper. And San Andreas, first time I think I tried San Andreas wrapper was an old Mexican cigar that had sitting around drying and cracking. It wasn't in very good shape. I tried to put it in the humidor to bring it back a little bit, but it wasn't long for the world. I have no idea how old it was. It was sitting in a drawer, moved around, moved twice in a box. It was in rough shape. I have no idea what the age of that thing was, but it was a Te Amo, which aren't the greatest to begin with. Not all of them, though. So the wrapper they use, though, is San Andreas wrapper, which is beginning to get really popular with cigars made outside of Mexico, which are most of them. Not a whole lot are made in Mexico. I've heard derogatory things about the tobacco in Mexico, but I will say they know how to grow a nice wrapper, though. This is a really good cigar. Like I said, the rest of it's made in tobacco from Dominican Republic, which is the island over there southeast of Cuba. And the binder, the filler, and the construction itself it's made in Dominican Republic. So my videos get too long, sorry, but I start talking and I can't stop. Even though this is a Toro, it's going pretty quick in my book. It's very enjoyable. I don't sense any nicotine yet. I read on that review that it does start getting a little stronger towards the end, so we'll find out about that. And I'll get closer down to the band point, which is where the band is, and we'll talk about bands and why is it still on, Chris? Why do you leave a long ash? I already explained that. Why are you keeping the band on there? I'll explain that too. So Stick around, pull up a chair, and it won't be that much longer. All right, getting down to the band point here. Sorry if I keep looking off to the side where the lens is and where I'm seeing what's on camera or not exactly lined up. But so this is what they call the band point. Pretty close to it anyway, which is where the cigar burn meets the band. Now you may have asked, and of course I'm not talking to you seasoned cigar smokers, why keep the band on there? You can see a lot of blog entries and audio, and I've heard a few different, especially on the Cigar Authority, who I recommend listening to, mentioning about the bands and where they originated from, and whether this is 100% true, I'm not sure, but it was I don't know, it was the Queen of England or one of those that didn't want their fingers to smell like cigar or to get any discoloration on their fingers. That might be true, or it might be a way of identifying the cigars. You can put your own bands on them, I guess. Like I put a band on my cigars with the date that I put them in my humidor, so I know I can rotate through them, smoke the oldest ones first, let the newer ones age a little bit in the humidor. And they're like wine, where the good cigars will age and get better. In my case, I want them to age because aging will help get rid of some of the nicotine, I've heard. With a new cigar, there might be some ammonia still left over, although they age most of the good cigars before you get them. But in transit, whether it was like a really hot back of a UPS truck or I don't think cold would hurt. Cold would probably be good to help keep out any beetle eggs from hatching. Ugh, imagine smoking those. Anyway, to the band, and I'm sure I go off track quite a bit here. This band here, it's a pretty nice one. I would say it's probably maybe a little bigger than average, although I've had ones that are a lot bigger than this. And keep the band on because most of them are self-adhesive, and the warmer the cigar gets, easier it is to pull it off without tearing the cigar wrapper, which you don't want to do. I mark down cigars that the wrappers don't come off easily. Sometimes they'll slide right off, but I can tell this one's not going to do that. It's on there pretty snug. So let's try to get this band off. I already saw where it was, and it looked like it was going to come off pretty cleanly. No problem. Came off nicely. And this is a really nice band to add to the collection, which I have a growing collection that my wife is making a nice collage out of. Pretty fancy, pretty nice. You can see where a little bit of the glue took off a little bit of the color there, but overall still looks pretty good. The thing with the band also is that smoking a cigar there's a ritual to it. I know some of you that don't smoke cigars are probably saying, the hell he's talking about, but the lighting of it, the cutting of it, and the band is a way to show some respect to the people who made it. The rollers, the manufacturers. They're proud of their cigars, all made by hand. It reminds me of microbrews or tequila, where there's heritage behind it. A lot of these are families sometimes that make these. Or families that own it anyway, and not necessarily the workers who put it together, I don't think, but down through the generations for these blenders of the cigars. And blending the cigars is a lot like blending a wine. This cigar, it smells really good. It has a nice sweetness to it. I'm sure that's due to this wrapper. This is definitely high up on my list so far as cigars go. This is great. Even though it was longer than I like. Doesn't mean I have to smoke it all the way down, but I like smoking as much as I can so you can see the different transitions of the cigar. I like cigar that does change. I don't know if I've noticed a whole lot of changes from the first to second, third, and now I'm moving into the third. I know there must be difference in construction because, like I said, the last third is tighter packed, so they did something a little bit differently with the tobacco on that end. And that's usually how it is. Not as far as the tightness, but as far as the changes in the tobacco. They usually do it in thirds. This one has remained smooth. Once in a while I'll get a little bit of harshness, but it doesn't last more than one puff. As you can see, I tapped the ash off a little there, but it's doing real well. For the remainder of this video, I'll talk a little bit about me and tobacco, our love-hate relationship. I've never liked cigars. I've never smoked cigars. That's probably why nicotine hits me. This one does have a little bit of a punch. Not much, but I can notice it. And it's not because of what I'm drinking, because I didn't really put hardly any Irish cream in this hot chocolate. Which I need to open it first to drink it. I'm feeling a little bit of the buzz, nicotine buzz. Probably the same thing a new cigarette smoker would get after smoking a pack of cigarettes. But this is a much higher quality product. But my dad smoked cigarettes until I was a teenager, and I helped him quit, mainly because, or mainly when he was trying to quit, and he'd hide behind the garage and think nobody was catching him sneaking a cigarette. I don't remember ever smoking cigars, but and I would go back there and catch him behind the garage, take it out of his mouth, break it in half, and he hasn't smoked since, so he's been off cigarettes for decades. Still seems to cough all the time, smoker cough kind of thing, but back then it wasn't uncommon for people to smoke in their houses. Our top part of our house, the roof would be just a bunch of smoke in it, smoke inside the house, watching TV. Mom hated it. She coughed all the time, still does, thinks it's because of that, although I'm hearing a lot more now following cigar videos and audio and stuff that all this secondhand smoke thing is a crock, and I might agree with that. But anyway, always have hated cigarettes. One day, when I was in my mid-20s, I was so tired of it, going places, and there was a lot more smoking in restaurants and ball games and all kinds of places. Just stinking up the joint, ruining the experience. I'd give my smoker friends a hard time because it was rare to find a considerate smoker. Now, you see most cigar smokers are fairly considerate from what I can tell. They don't just do it because they can. There's not many more places they can smoke anyway. But, like I'll ask if it'll bother somebody, or I just won't even do it around other people. Some people hate the smell of cigars as much as I hate the smell of cigarettes. I think they smell infinitely better. Like I said, the aroma of this one is terrific. Now, the next day it may not smell so good on the walls of your house or, in your clothes, or, but it's still better than cigarettes. So I asked my buddy when we first started smoking cigars, why did we do it? And he thinks it was because we were just trying to look cool. I know part of it, though, a big part of it was to get even with smokers. When I'd be somewhere at a bar having drinks and somebody light up next to me, I purposely seeked out the stinkiest cigars that put off the most amount of smoke, plumes of it. And I didn't know about cigar shops back then. I'm sure they existed. This was the late 80s, early 90s. None that I remember seeing anywhere. Then again, I lived in the freaking middle of the Mojave Desert. Where cigars you would find, unless you really seeked them out, would be the kind you find at liquor stores, gas stations. Swisher Sweets, that's right. Started there, like probably a lot of you did. They were real smoke bombs because they were mostly paper and crap tobacco. Never inhaled. At that time, I didn't know you weren't supposed to inhale cigars. So I never really considered myself a serious cigar smoker because I would say, I don't inhale. This was before Clinton said it too, by the way. Yeah, it was before that. And but I never did, and found it turns out that you're not supposed to. But we probably did everything wrong. See people on TV back then, getting a cigar, tearing off the end. I don't know if I did that very often, but they weren't really quality cigars anyway. I'm not talking about Swishers now. We didn't stick with those for that long. I wish I could remember the brands. I know Dunhill is one of them, which is better back in the day. I don't think there's as good now. Definitely not as good as something like this. But so we went from that to then we would just smoke them when we were kicking back, having a good time, having some drinks, sitting in the hot tub, going to Vegas. And then I stopped for almost 20 years. Part of it had to do with moving. Part of it had to do with having kids. Part of it had to do with just not having the time, getting really busy with kids and work and all that, and just it dropped off by the wayside. Didn't do it for a long time. If I was smoking quality cigars back then, maybe I never would have stopped. But just the opportunity didn't come up. So got back into it again recently over the last year. Odd thing, I had my first physical. I have to have a yearly physical with my job. Had my first physical after smoking cigars, and lo and behold, my blood pressure went down. That's right, down. And you'll hear these cigar podcasts and videos where they will claim that cigar smoking is actually good for your health. And they point out examples of people that are known to smoke cigars, multiple cigars every day, like George Burns and other people. And that helps you relax. I will say that it does help you relax. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big fan of nicotine, and that's the main ingredient in tobacco. If you look up the genus or name for tobacco, it's Nica something. It's nicotine is part nicotina. It's part of the name of tobacco. That's the main ingredient. Just like caffeine is the main ingredient of coffee, which I don't drink coffee. I'm not addicted to anything. I don't smoke pot. I can't stand it. I really don't like the smell of that stuff. Living here in Colorado, if you go down to Denver or places where, well, it's legal now in this state, and cigar smoking is getting tougher and tougher. Tell me how ass backwards that is. So, let's get back to the cigar. Enough about me. You may have noticed the smoke output just dropped off to about 0. And it was coming off the foot, which is the part you light, pretty good there for a while, smelling great. Now, I don't think there's anything. There isn't. So that goes down in score. So I'm going to tap off more of this ash, relight it, get it going again. It drops a point for that, and I'll check in towards the nub, which is the end of it there, and give you some more final thoughts on this cigar. So here we are again, not very far since I cut, mainly because I wanted to show you something. I haven't had to do this very often, and it did lose a little bit, lost a point for this, maybe 2, where I had to relight it, which get all the ash off it that I could, and relight it, and wasn't doing all that great. So I had to do something I've never done yet, where I went from the V cut, and I went ahead and got my straight cutter and cut off the end there. After doing that, as you just saw, lots of smoke. And usually I just go with a straight cut right from the get-go. But like I said, I have my reasons for doing the V-cut on occasion. The last couple times I used a V-cut, I got plenty of smoke all the way to the end on the other cigars, different cigars, and was not a problem. This one I could tell was going to be a little bit more of a struggle because of the tight pack at the end. Now, it has loosened up quite a bit as it got warmer towards the front part of the cigar where I cut it, where the part you put in your mouth. Some people just bypass altogether and just do a straight cut. Most probably do a straight cut. And by straight cut, I mean getting one of these guillotine cutters, which this is a really nice Rocky Patel straight cutter made by Cigar. You put it through there, bam, cut it. Hence the name guillotine, and makes a straight cut, and it allows more air to get through, as you can see there, and you can get a pretty good view of the cigar inside the cigar right there. Lots of thick smoke. Doesn't feel like it's getting warm yet. Probably not far enough down for that, but getting close. So just wanted to show you that real quick. Great aroma still. Now you notice I'm not holding my breath when I'm doing that. I'm still breathing through my nose until I stop to let the smoke come through. The smoke isn't going any further than here, if that, even if that far. Just get it up in the sinuses because you can pick up more flavors that way. That's called the retrohale. Still enjoying it though, no doubt about that. Toro would have been probably better. I'm pretty sure they make it in Toro. I hope they make it in Toro. I mean, I'm sorry, Robusto, which is a little bit shorter than this Toro. Those names have to do with the size. There's Corona, Toro, all different kinds. Some of them have different names, but Robusto is not how robust it is, but I guess some people could argue it is because of the way it's, how wide it is or how long it is, more filler. But it's mainly the ring gauge, which is how the distance around, and the length. Like I said, this is a 6.5 by 50, if memory serves. I'm not looking at notes, but I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But anyway, getting towards the end here, enjoying it, and we'll see how it ends up. So I've been smoking this now for about an hour and 5 minutes, and I'm probably going to go ahead and rate this and end this video. I don't know how much more of it I'm going to smoke. I'm down to where it would have been if it was a Robusto. A little more tingly on the lips, especially the front here on the top. As you can see, I got more lighting now because my timer, it sensed movement in here and it came on, which means it may turn off any time. But the good thing about that is I wanted to show you, I'm marking this down mostly on construction, burn, not on flavor, that's for sure. Not on appearance either. As you can see, I'm not sure how well that's focusing on there. See that seam right there? It's holding together really good. I can't knock it for that. But I'm going to give it, and I have given it, let me get out the magic book here. My nice leather book my wife gave me, a 94, which is on par with all the best ones that I've smoked. There are some I've rated a little bit higher, mainly because they were, the construction worked out a little better, didn't have to relight, didn't have to recut, didn't have to touch up. It all really comes down to burn, which is a construction issue. Aroma is terrific. Unfortunately, burn and aroma on Cigar Aficionado is the same category. Aroma is terrific, love it. Taste, dinged at one point there, occasional bitterness here and there, but just very minor. And overall, I knocked it down a couple points because of having to baby it there through the middle part. But the strong point definitely is the aroma, the flavor is outstanding. The appearance, I didn't have any reason to mark it down at all. So 94 and 100, an hour and 10 minutes, pretty good. So if you want to find out more about this cigar, there's not a whole lot of places you can buy it. Maybe in cigar shops. I've never seen it on bid, and the bid is ran by Cigar Bid, which is Cigars International from all I can tell, and they don't sell it. So you can get it through Two Guys Smoke Shop, which is the same people that do the Cigar Authority podcast and videos. A little more nicotine than I would like, but then again, it's a Toro, so it's a little bit bigger cigar than I'm used to. But not too bad. I mean, I may feel it here as soon as I'm down here, but there's easy ways to get rid of that nicotine buzz feel. I don't feel nauseous or anything, though. I'd say medium, between medium and full. There's mild, medium, full. It's medium full, although others have said it's medium. I think it's a little bit more than that, but the aroma is outstanding. This is definitely a nice cigar. Even though I'm rating it a 94, I would buy more. I definitely would buy more, maybe even a box. It's that good. Now that the idea of citrus has been entered into my mind, I am picking that up. So, hope you enjoy this probably too long of a video once again. Try to make them shorter. They end up being long anyway. So, once again, this is La Flor Dominicana 1994. It is a 6.5 by 52, so it's a little bit wider ring gauge. And you can tell the wider ring gauge once you do the straight cut, a little bit bigger than I would prefer. But overall, though, a great cigar. I highly recommend it. Lived up to what I was expecting, hoping out of it. I don't know where I would have got it, if at all, if my son didn't pick it up for me in that cigar shop in California. So, thanks to you, Anthony, for this. This is really, really, really good. So I'm going to sign out here from what I like to call the Stogie Palace, which is, obviously you can tell, is my garage. But hey, it works for me. And we're at 40% humidity. It's 54 degrees out here, so it's holding up good. Even with that drop humidity, not an issue at all. So thanks for watching. Don't know if I'll make more. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was slightly educational for you longtime cigar smokers. It was probably pretty beginner pedestrian, but you know, I assume that the people that will find this will be like me, looking for information on this cigar. And you know, I don't like talking over anybody's head. If I talk under, you know, your experience level, you'll get over it. Hour and 10 minute smoke, lots of smoke. Maybe you want to just go with a straight cut right off the bat. And so anyway, I've enjoyed it. Hope you have too. I'll talk to you later.